All right, today I want to discuss about the Dataview plugin for Obsidian. So if you are already using that plugin, then you might be missing out. So it's a great plugin and I highly recommend it. It's really useful because it enables querying your knowledge base in different ways. You can run queries to find nodes that match specific criteria that are located in specific folders and things like that. You can filter by tags, limit the number of results that you get, etc., etc. Super powerful. As you can see in the documentation, you can do various things. So here we have an example that just shows all of your nodes. Another one that lists all of your nodes that have the tag poems and a specific author property set to Edgar Allan Poe. You can create tables instead of lists. You can run JavaScript as part of Dataview queries. And so, for instance, you can use something like this to run an inline Dataview query that's going to return the modified time of the current file, the current node. And you can do really a ton more. So you can actually write pure JavaScript as part of your nodes inside of Dataview queries. This is super nice, super powerful, but there is one big limitation that I find annoying and that I just couldn't stand. It's the fact that whenever you are using such queries in your nodes, actually the only place where you can see the results of those queries is inside of Obsidian. Why? Because the rendering of such a query, such as this one, is something dynamic. But if I open the same files with a text editor, so this markdown file, all I will see is this. And the issue to me, since I'm using AI with my nodes a lot more than before right now, is that AI doesn't get the results. AI just sees the queries. And it would be more interesting if it was possible to actually persist, serialize the output of Dataview queries inside of your nodes. And this is actually what happens with the plugin that I've created. So I've recently released a second version of that plugin with many improvements, but basically the idea is as follows. So instead of writing the usual style of Dataview queries, such as these, where you are just using this syntax to tell the Dataview plugin that you are writing a query, we are going to replace that by the usage of my plugin. And so the idea with this one is that whenever you have a Dataview query that's not enclosed with the classic notation of Dataview, but instead this one, then my plugin will actually call the Dataview plugin to generate the output. But instead of rendering it with the default views of the Dataview plugin, it's going to serialize that information inside of the nodes. And so this is the way it works. So this is an example where I'm writing a Dataview query that I want to serialize. So you have to use those preambles, let's say, to your queries. This is the normal Dataview query that you would use otherwise. And so we can do it like this. So if I write here Dataview and then just paste this very same query, you will see that I get the same results inside of the dynamic view of the Dataview plugin. And so that works fine. But as I said, all that will appear in that file is actually this. Whereas if you are using this syntax with my plugin, what will happen is that you have your query here. And just below, you can see that there is a serialized query that you can see. And this is just markdown. And in practice, what this means is that when you use this syntax and the query results are serialized, and you open the same file with a classic node editor, you will actually see those results as part of the file. So if I go to source mode now, you can see that just having the previous one, so this one with the Dataview, that's all there is in the file. This is the source of the file. But in the other case, you have this comment, not very useful on its own, but you can see that the file actually contains the serialized version of that query. So the output is a markdown table that is part of the markdown file. And the big benefit with this is that whenever AI or you with another tool reads that node, you get access to the results. And to me, this is beneficial in two main ways, let's say. The first one is if you decide to stop using Obsidian, or you are using different tools with your nodes to consume, let's say that you open your nodes with Visual Studio Code or any other text editor out there, the serialized versions of your queries will be available. And the same is true for AI. So when AI reads this node, it can, without any problem, read the results and have access to those links, which would not be possible with the normal Dataview plugin. All right, so how do you install this thing? It's quite simple. You go to the community plugins, you browse, then you search for Dataview. And inside of the first results, maybe Serializer, that's the one that you have to install. So you just install it or update it or whatever, and you have it. Once you have it, it's quite important to first configure it. So by default, it's going to automatically scan for queries inside of your vault, and it's going to add the results of those queries to your nodes. You can disable that if you want, just tick this box there. You can show or hide the results button, whatever. But importantly, you should pay attention to these two settings. Mainly this one, the folders to ignore. So the thing is, there are some places in your vault where using such queries might be problematic. So if you are using templates, typically you don't want this plugin to serialize queries as part of your templates. So to give you an example, I have this template for daily notes. And inside of it, you can see that I have queries in place. And in this case, when I first installed it, I forgot to ignore that folder for serialized queries, queries to serialize, which means that the template is going to contain results, and it's not something that you want. So if you have queries in files such as this one, so templates, it's best to modify the settings to exclude that from the scanning. Because basically this plugin is running in the background all the time. It detects queries and it serializes those. So to give you an example here, I'm going to delete the serialized version of this query. And you can see that just after the plugin automatically added the results back. And the process is as follows. So basically, whenever a file is created, modified, whatever in your vault, the plugin detects it, looks at it, tries to find such queries, and if it finds those, it tries to generate the results. And if the results are different from the currently serialized version, then it updates that. That means that the results of those queries is maintained up to date all of the time. And that's nice because, for instance, here I have a map of content in my vault that lists nodes that contain specific tags. So in this case, every node that contains the PKM tag, and that is not a quote and not one of my quotes, and that I have published, and it sorts them. This list of results is something I want to keep up to date. And as you can see indicated here, this is done automatically by the plugin. If I want, I can also do that manually. I think that this is the syntax, right? So you can use QueryToSerialize manual. And if you do that, then the process running behind the plugin will not update your queries automatically, but you have to click this button here to refresh the results. And if you can see here, the notice, it's been serialized. So that's the way it works. You can also do it once, which means that the query will be serialized one time and that's it. It will never be updated again. So if the results are there, nothing will happen with this node. Now what I can do, of course, is force the update. So I'm going to delete the results there. So all of the nodes, now it's done one time, but it's not going to be updated again. All right. In this case, this is a query that I want to update all of the time, so I will keep it this way. But as you can see, the main results, the main benefit of using this plugin is that your results, your query results are saved in your nodes. And that means if you do a backup of your entire vault, then you not only get your nodes and the contents, but you also get the data that corresponds to those query results. And that's important, I think, because in the long run, let's say that in 10 years from now, Obsidian is not there anymore, you stopped using it, or maybe you rediscover your old knowledge base on some backup that you took at the time, then it means that those results will still be there, and you will still be able to see, okay, these were my results from that date or that day or that project or whatever. And I think that this is important in the long run. You want something that you will be able to leverage in the long run. So in the short term, I would say the main benefit is being able to see those results outside of Obsidian and being able to leverage those with AI. So if I want to ask AI to explore all of the notes that I have about knowledge management, I can just point it to this markdown file. And since the results are part of the markdown file, then it means that AI will be able to find all of those links for me, which would not be possible with standard Dataview queries. All right. With that said, there are many more things I could say about this plugin. I will let you explore the details, but recently, as I mentioned in my blog post, I have extended what you can do with this plugin. So now it's also possible to use inline queries, and I'm going to show you a few examples in a minute. You can use task queries, table queries, multi-line queries. As I said, there are different types of queries that you can use. So automatic, manual, run once. And there's also a mode where it runs the query once and then removes the syntax of the plugin, which means that you get the results once and then the query is gone. And so you have the data, that you wanted, and that's it. And so to give you some examples, so with the Dataview plugin, you can do inline queries like this one. And if you want to be able to do the same with this plugin, then you have to use this IQ style. It's just to keep it short. I will show you some examples here in my note. So you can do something like this. See, in this case, what I did is I'm doing an inline query. And I'm just asking for the tags of this node. And you can see that it returns the tags of this node. And so if I refresh it, it stays the same. Now if I go back on top and change the tags of this specific node, I'm going to add tests, for instance. And if we go back down, you should see that it has updated automatically. All right, see, test is right there. Again, save to your node. Another thing that you can do is use Dataview.js queries. So in this case, I'm creating a span using the Dataview API. So one thing to note is that you absolutely need to have the Dataview plugin installed for this to work. So this plugin is like on top of the normal Dataview plugin. And by the way, it will tell you if Dataview is not there, not enabled when you start it. So again, these queries you can directly execute and refresh. You can also, for instance, create markdown lists like this one. I'm going to replace this, and this creates a markdown list using the 1, 2, 3 array and transform those to a paragraph using the markdown that was generated. And you can see that it renders nicely there. Yeah, and I'm still in the source mode. So if I go back to the normal mode, you can see that you have normal syntax. You can create tables. And actually, you can do many more things. The thing to understand is that this plugin supports most of the normal Dataview syntax. I suppose that there are some edge cases that will not be supported. For instance, I did not test the dv.execute extensively. I think that it's more or less works, but it's not something that I focus on because it doesn't matter to what I'm doing with Obsidian, basically. So yeah, not convinced. Anyways, so you can do also task lists. So you can search for tasks within your vault and get those rendered. So here are different tasks that appear in my notes. If a query is invalid, the plugin will let you know, so you know, okay, I have an issue to fix in that specific node. And the rest, just to show you one last example with the syntax for Dataview.js. Let's explore this one. Okay, I got 3 results. What did we do here? So basically, we have a query on multiple lines, which is nice when you have code like this. I'm retrieving all of the nodes in my vault that have the test tag. it gets the file name and sorts those in descending order. Then it creates a list mapping the name to a link. And then for each of those, it creates an H2 element. Seems invalid, actually. Wait. Yeah, anyways, let's not dive into too many details here, but normally that should work fine, unless I'm mistaken. Oh, sorry, I wasn't looking at the right place. So it's because we have two things that are being displayed. So first is a list, and second are the elements. So if we go back to H2, this was actually correct. This is why I was a bit lost there. Okay, so if we remove that, we will just get the H2s. Yeah, see, it works fine. All right, I hope that you find this interesting and valuable. As a knowledge management practitioner, I really find this very important and useful. I will not say that this is the best thing in the world, but I think it adds value, especially if you want to use AI with your nodes and really leverage all of the links that you might have between your information. There are many cases such as index nodes and things like that where queries do make sense. For instance, here in my daily nodes, I have the nodes that I have created today. So today I've created those 3, the nodes that I have modified. And basically you can use all of the DataView syntax, usual syntax of DataView, but with the benefit of having the data actually saved to your nodes. I think that I've repeated that too many times, but anyway. So this is an open source plugin. Anyone is free to contribute. You can find the links in the plugin details in the community page. It's easy to install. It's quite easy to use. Also, you will see in the links on the repo, you have the documentation for the plugin. So everything is documented, how you can use it, how you can write queries with some examples. There's also an alternative syntax that you might want to use. So let me find it back. It's interview queries, alternative syntax. Yeah, this one. So you can write it this way, but some people prefer to use this different syntax because they are publishing their nodes, and in some cases this makes things a bit better. Doesn't matter too much. But one thing to note, and that's actually the last benefit and the reason why I initially created this plugin, if you are publishing your nodes, whether it's with the Obsidian Publish or Quartz or other means like Hugo, creating static sites, of course the DataView queries are not published, or at least they are not published in the way you want. So you won't see the results of those queries when those are published. But with this plugin, it's actually the case. So just to give you an example, this is my nodes website. If we go to it and open map of content, you will see that the queries are actually serialized. So this is the results of the serialized queries, of the queries that I have here in this side of this mock. So as you can see here, I have a query for all nodes about AI in my vault. And when it gets published, since the markdown actually contains those links, the published version also does, which is nice. And the last benefit, and then I will shut up about this plugin, is also the fact that since the serialized version of those queries, the results are actually part of the markdown, this actually means that when this query executes and the results are stored, if there are links inside of those results, this means for Obsidian and for the knowledge graph that the nodes are connected, which means that if I go to here, activation functions, you can see that I do have links from the AI mock. So this actually enriches your knowledge base. And I think that's quite important to mention, and I was about to forget it. But that's quite cool because that way it does add value to your knowledge graph, whereas with the standard DataView plugin, you do not get those connections created. And those are not visible if you look at the graph. So I'm not going to discuss too much about the global graph of Obsidian because it's not very valuable. As you can see, mine is completely useless by now. It just looks nice, but yeah. Now for the local graph, this does make a difference. And it's actually useful because you get to see the connections between this node and the other ones in your vault. And so, yeah, it's too much in this case because it's a mock. But if I go to my daily nodes, then it's even worse. Maybe I change the configuration to add too many levels of depth. So let's go back to 1. Yeah, this is more manageable. You can see that, yeah, today I have touched all of those nodes. So these are linked to my current daily nodes. And that's, I think, quite cool because I do get to see the nodes that are linked also because those queries here add the results to my markdown file and just create links for Obsidian. Anyways, I think that's about enough information about this plugin. I hope that you find it interesting. If you do, then yeah, try it out. If you find issues, just report those on GitHub and I will take a look. There are more improvements coming, but I think that with V2 that I've released, so I think that we are at 2.4 something. Yeah, it's quite useful by now, pretty effective. Yeah, just one last thing I want to mention is that there are also commands that you can use with this plugin. I keep forgetting stuff. So if we take, for example, this, which one should I use? So maybe this one. So if you have this as a normal Dataview inline query, and it also works with the normal ones, so this renders well. So this is Dataview doing its thing. Again, not part of the file. Now, if I select this and I open the command palette, I have, as you can see, different commands that I can use provided by the plugin. So the first one is to insert a new Dataview Serializer block, which is nice because you don't have to remember the exact syntax to use. So you can use this. The second one has to do with scanning, so you can force a full refresh of all your query results across your entire vault. Be careful if you have, just like me, thousands of nodes with such queries. It's going to take some time to update everything, and you might have to run it multiple times so that every place that needs to get updated gets updated. You can also scan and serialize all of the queries that it finds in the current file. This is usually much faster. And also, Serializer, what you can do is convert the query at the current cursor location to the serialized version. And same you can do for all of those in the same file. So if I do this, you can see that this query that I had was just converted for me, and now it ran. So that's quite nice. And if you have multiple of those, then you can do the same basically for the entire file. And this also works if you have, let's say I take this one, and then I will stop with this video. All right, like this, Dataview. My vault is suffering a bit. So now we have multiple normal Dataview queries here. I can just convert with the entire files. Bam. Now I should get the new version updated everywhere. So here, voila, all of those have been converted. Again, if you test it out and like what you get, then don't hesitate to report any issues that you find, and don't hesitate to give your support so you can become a GitHub sponsor, or you can join my community. There are different ways to support my work. This all takes time and effort, and if you want me to continue building and improving stuff, then yeah, do consider helping out. That's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. See ya.